I want you to imagine something for a second.
Okay, I'm listening.
So you are sitting at your computer, maybe it's late at night, and you're just, killing time.
Right, going down the classic internet rabbit hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You bring up a satellite map of your neighborhood, you zoom in on your roof, you pan across your street, and then you follow the local river winding through town.
Just sort of seeing what's out there.
Yeah. But then you zoom in a little closer, and right there, lurking just beneath the surface of the water, you spot this dark, unnatural shape.
Oh, wow.
It's distinctly blue, which is completely out of place against all the natural browns and grays of the mud and the rocks.
That would be so creepy.
Right. So what do you do? I mean, do you just brush it off as a digital glitch? Or do you call the authorities and tell them you might have just located the key to a decades-old mystery?
It sounds like the ultimate armchair detective fantasy, honestly.
It really does. But in the case we are looking at today, that exact scenario actually happened.
Yeah, that blue anomaly on the screen, it wasn't a glitch at all.
No, it wasn't. It was the catalyst that reignited a massive real-world investigation.
It really is wild.
So today's deep dive is taking us straight to the muddy banks of the White River. We're looking at the search for Bonnie Lee Schultz.
Which is just a chilling cold case about a woman who vanished without a trace back in the late 90s.
Right. And to understand how this case was suddenly blown wide open, we have these incredible boots-on-the-ground details from the actual physical search of the river.
It's intense. I mean, navigating dense brush and freezing water, all based on a crowdsourced tip.
Exactly. And as a real-life criminal investigator, I can tell you this completely changed the game.
Oh, I bet.
Our mission today is to explore how this modern digital sleuthing, everyday people like you just clicking around on maps, combined with specialized dive teams, are literally unearthing physical evidence.
Evidence in cases that have stumped authorities for decades.
Yeah, the barrier to entry for cracking a cold case has fundamentally shifted.
It really has. I mean, anyone listening to this right now, armed with nothing but a laptop and an internet connection, has the potential to spot something.
Something that highly trained, well-funded investigators missed.
Exactly. And they miss things simply because, well, they just can't be everywhere at once.
Right, which is wild to think about. You could literally pull up a satellite map of your own town right now and spot something the police have been looking for since you were a kid.
It's a crazy thought.
So let's get into how this specific search kicked off. It all started because a tipster, after hearing about the Bonnie Lee Schultz case, was scouring Google Earth.
And they spotted this blue anomaly in the White River.
Yeah, but the detail that really caught my attention here as an investigator is that they were looking at a very specific satellite image from the year 2005.
Right. The timeline of that imagery is the crucial factor.
It's an incredibly bizarre stroke of luck, honestly.
It really is. That specific satellite pass in 2005 captured the one and only time the water in that particular section of the river was actually clear enough.
Clear enough to see the object? I mean, they verified that, which is just crazy to me.
They did, yeah.
They went back through the archives, checking satellite images from every other year before and after 2005.
And in every other photo, the river was just brown, murky, and totally opaque.
You have to consider the dynamic nature of a river ecosystem to really understand how rare that is.
Oh, absolutely. A river is essentially a massive, moving conveyor belt of dirt.
Right. You have variables like heavy rainfall churning up the bottom.
And agricultural runoff, shifting seasonal currents.
Yeah, so for whatever meteorological or environmental reason, in 2005, the flow rate dropped.
And all the suspended particles in the water settled just enough.
Exactly. The satellite just happened to snap the photo at that exact perfect moment of clarity.
It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is almost always invisible.
That is the perfect way to describe it. So, armed with this incredibly lucky 2005 image, the search team heads out to the physical coordinates.
Right. They pinpoint the spot.
And it happens to be right behind a residential house. It's owned by these locals named Danny, Mary Kate, and Ruthie.
And they were incredibly gracious, right? They let the team onto their property to access the water.
They did, yeah. But when the team gets to the edge of the yard, the reality of the terrain completely shatters their expectations.
Because this is not a gentle slope down to a sandy beach.
Not at all. It's described as a sharp, heavily overgrown cliff.
It's hostile terrain, highly inaccessible on foot, let alone by a vehicle.
Right. And as an investigator, my brain immediately started waving red flags when I heard about this cliff.
Oh, sure.
If the working theory is that Bonnie's car ended up in the river at this exact spot via a crash, I'm just thinking how.
Yeah, the logistics don't make sense.
Exactly. I'm picturing this overgrown drop-off, and driving a car off this specific cliff would be like a coordinated Hollywood stunt.
Right, you practically need a ramp.
You really would. It's too steep and heavily wooded for someone to accidentally swerve off the road and end up perfectly submerged right there.
The geography just completely contradicts the mechanics of a typical auto accident.
Yeah, I have to push back on the idea of an accident entirely.
Which is totally fair. When you look at the physical barriers, a casual, low-speed accident resulting in a submerged vehicle there is highly improbable.
Think about the roads around a residential cliff like this. The speed limits are slow.
Right. You aren't barreling down a major interstate at 70 miles an hour, losing control, and launching 50 feet through the air.
You're cruising. If you bump off the road, you hit a tree, you get tangled in the brush.
You don't cleanly vault over a cliff and into the middle of the river.
The physical reality of the environment absolutely precludes it.
So true.
So if her car is actually down there at the bottom of this cliff, it wasn't a tragic one-person accident.
No, someone had to purposefully place it there.
Exactly. They would have had to navigate that terrain intentionally, maybe even using heavy equipment or a specific access point that isn't there anymore.
Just to dump the vehicle and get rid of the evidence.
Right, that changes the entire psychological profile of the disappearance.
It really does. But let's look at the physical science of the river itself because it adds another fascinating layer to this.
Okay, let's hear it.
Let's assume the car was intentionally dumped near this location back in the late 90s when she vanished.
Right, you might wonder why a river wouldn't just wash it away over the decades.
Exactly. When a heavy, hollow object, like a vehicle, first enters moving water, it might float briefly, but once the cabin fills with water and it comes to rest on the bottom, the physics change entirely.
It just turns into an anchor.
Yes. It
Yeah.
becomes part of the riverbed. The sheer weight of a waterlogged car combined with the suction of river mud and the constant deposition of silt over time effectively glues it to the bottom.
Wow. So it rarely keeps moving downriver on its own once that initial settling process happens.
Right. If it was placed there in the late 90s, it makes perfect scientific sense that it would remain entombed in that precise location for years.
Entombment. That is a chilling word, but that's the reality.
It is. Just waiting for the water to clear in 2005.
Unbelievable. So the team is standing on the edge of this cliff, looking down at the water, gearing up to solve this mystery frozen in mud.
Right.
And just as they are getting their equipment ready, the homeowners drop a massive bombshell on them.
The phantom searchers.
Yes, they find out they aren't even the first people hunting for this car that week.
That is just wild to me.
Danny, Mary-Kate, and Ruthie casually mention that just a few days prior, a couple of guys showed up to search the exact same spot.
That reveals so much about the decentralized nature of modern true crime communities.
Right, you have multiple independent groups of amateur sleuths converging on the exact same physical coordinates.
All driven by the same shared digital footprint.
Yeah, and these weren't just guys splashing around with snorkeling masks either. The homeowners noted they came equipped with sonar.
Oh, wow. Serious gear.
Serious gear. And here's the part that genuinely made my jaw drop.
What's that?
Those previous sonar guys actually pulled something out of the river. They found a brake pad.
Wow. And their methodology for analyzing that brake pad is just a perfect snapshot of 21st century investigation.
They ran the brake pad through ChatGPT.
That is so crazy.
Right. They pulled a rusted, wet piece of metal out of the mud, typed the visible serial numbers and descriptions into an AI, and ChatGPT told them the part was consistent with a 1992 vehicle.
The intersection of standing knee-deep in river sludge and consulting an artificial intelligence to identify car parts is just surreal.
It's a fascinating juxtaposition for sure.
I mean, AI can offer rapid preliminary identification based on massive data sets.
But an algorithm can't swim. It can't dig.
Exactly. While ChatGPT can give you a statistical probability on a brake pad, it doesn't replace the need for specialized human intervention.
You still need someone to actually recover the chassis. Which brings us to why the current search team brought in heavy hitters.
Right, they didn't rely on AI.
No, they brought in a professional from Chaos Divers. This is a diver who has 6 solid years of experience doing exactly this kind of grueling, dangerous underwater recovery.
The mechanics of this dive are intense. The physical toll on the human body just cannot be overstated here.
No kidding. This is not a recreational scuba trip in clear tropical waters.
Not at all. He is strapping on 80 pounds of heavy gear.
80 pounds of dead weight before he even gets in the water.
Hmm.
I mean, I complain when my backpack has a laptop and a heavy water bottle in it.
Right. And the equipment checks are absolutely vital for survival in this specific environment.
Yeah, they noted starting with 284 psi of air in his tank, giving him a substantial window of time underwater.
But the most critical piece of gear he checks is the dump valve.
Oh, man. The stakes with that dump valve are terrifying when you really think about what he's doing.
Oh, yeah.
He needs that valve to release air from his buoyancy device so he can become negatively buoyant and sink down to search the bottom.
Right, and if you're diving in a clear ocean, a malfunction is bad.
But if you are thinking yourself into thick river mud and debris, and that valve gets jammed with silt when you need to inflate and float back up,
You are physically trapped at the bottom of the river underneath 80 pounds of gear.
the margin for error is essentially zero.
It really is. He is deliberately sinking into a hazardous, zero visibility environment.
And the environment itself presents a very strange paradox for the search team,
How so?
because the water they are diving into is surprisingly shallow.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, if you were listening to this right now and picturing a deep, dark abyss, think again. The diver gets in, and he finds that the water is mostly only 4.5 to 5 feet deep.
Wow.
In one specific spot, it peaks at maybe 7 feet. If you stood up in most of this search grid, your head would be completely dry.
That is just so counterintuitive.
Right. I have to express utter disbelief here. How on earth can an entire multi-ton passenger car hide in a pool of water shallower than a standard backyard swimming pool?
It completely defies our intuition. We naturally assume a massive object requires massive depth to remain hidden.
Right, exactly.
But shallow rivers are incredibly deceptive environments because you have to account for the topography of the riverbed, not just the water level.
And the diver makes a huge point about this. He gets down there and realizes that bottom isn't flat sand or soft silt.
Right.
He specifically emphasizes, he says, big boulders. This is big boulders.
Those massive boulders create deep, jagged crevices.
Yeah.
And when a vehicle sinks into an environment like that, it doesn't sit flat on a smooth surface like a toy car on a hardwood floor.
It wedges violently into those crevices at steep angles.
Exactly. Then you factor in decades of river flow.
Right. The water is constantly carrying sediment, mud, and debris.
So the river essentially pegs over it,
That's a great way to put it. The silt packs into the empty spaces around the car.
filling the crevices between the boulders and the metal chassis.
Over decades, the vehicle becomes completely camouflaged. It blends seamlessly into the natural topography of the riverbed.
You could literally be standing in 5 feet of water, your boots resting right on top of the roof of a car.
And you would simply think you were standing on a large, flat rock covered in algae.
That is terrifying.
It really is. And it completely explains the diver's analogy.
Yeah.
Because the water is murky and the bottom is so treacherous, he can't just swim normally.
Right. Visibility is basically zero.
Yeah, so he describes using stakes to pull himself along the bottom. He said it was like a skier using poles to pull themselves forward, just crawling blindly across these giant boulders under the water.
It is a meticulous, agonizing crawl by touch alone.
He has a flashlight and a mask, but the visibility in a churned-up river is often measured in inches.
He has to rely entirely on tactile feedback, feeling his way through the freezing mud and rock.
Just searching for a texture or a shape that doesn't belong in nature.
Wow.
And then he finds it.
He actually finds it.
In just 3 to 4 feet of water, feeling around in the mud, he pulls up an object.
Oh my God.
He holds it up, waving it above the surface, and the team on the shore realizes it's a heavily rusted wheel rim.
A physical artifact immediately changes the stakes of the entire operation.
It really does. They cross a threshold from theory to tangible evidence.
The moment of discovery shifts everything from a slow, blind underwater crawl to rapid-fire implications.
They have this rusted rim on the bank, and immediately the team goes to work cross-referencing it.
And how do they do it?
They look it up on eBay.
Which is another brilliant example of modern crowdsourced tools replacing traditional institutional databases.
Right. They compare the rusted heavy metal in their hands to vintage car part listings online, and they match the unique hole pattern.
That's incredible.
The team realizes They're looking at a rim consistent with a 1990 Mercury Sable.
Wow, a Mercury Sable.
Yeah, and it's even noted that this specific model had spoked hubs and closed hubcaps, which matched the exact characteristics of what they just pulled from the mud.
It's no longer just a vague anomaly on a map or a random piece of trash.
No, it is a specific mechanical component tied directly to the era of the disappearance.
At this point, the protocol is clear. They have to bring in official law enforcement.
Absolutely. So they immediately call the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, IMPD.
Right.
They get on the phone with Courtney Carter, and they also mention a Sergeant Kishner, letting them know they've pulled up physical evidence and are ready to hand it over.
Okay, so the police are involved now.
Yes, but it's during this exchange with the police that we get a massive, perspective-shifting revelation about how that car might have gotten there in the first place.
The police introduce a geographic and historical variable that completely rewrites the working theory.
The officers mention a place called the Riviera, which is located near the Broad Ripple Yacht Club.
Okay.
It's just up the river from where the team is currently searching. And the police point out that right after Bonnie vanished in the late 90s, a massive flood hit that specific area.
To understand the implications of that, we have to talk about the hydrodynamics of a major flood.
Okay, lay it on me.
The force generated by millions of gallons of surging water is almost incomprehensible.
Right, and the homeowner actually backed this up, saying they remembered the water level getting incredibly high during that time.
So the police theory is that if her car went into the water miles upstream at the Riviera, the sheer force of that massive flood could have easily picked up the vehicle.
Washed it downriver and wedged it violently into these specific boulders where the team is currently standing.
Think about the physics of that. A car seems incredibly heavy to us, but inside it contains a massive volume of trapped air.
Oh, that makes sense.
When floodwaters rise rapidly, a car can become buoyant. The turbulent current creates intense underwater vacuums and shear forces.
Forces that can lift and tumble a 3,000-pound vehicle like a tin can.
Exactly. The car gets swept along until the river narrows or becomes shallow, hitting a natural choke point.
Like the boulder field?
Yes. Those massive boulders the diver was crawling over acted as a filter, catching the car and locking it in place as the floodwaters eventually receded.
Okay, I hear the physics and the logic makes sense. But as an investigator, I still have to push back on the timeline.
Go for it.
If the police knew there was a massive flood right after she went missing, and they understand the hydrodynamics of how floodwaters wash heavy debris downriver to choke points, why did it take decades to find this?
That is the big question.
Why did it take a random person zooming in on a 2005 Google Earth map and an independent dive team dragging themselves through the mud to finally search this exact spot?
Right.
I mean, if you know a flood happened, shouldn't checking the natural choke points downriver be step one?
It highlights the incredibly frustrating reality of municipal cold case investigations. You are looking at the harsh limitations of departmental resources versus the sheer vastness of the natural environment.
Yeah, that's fair.
The police likely knew the flood moved debris, but a river is a giant, chaotic shredder. It spreads debris over miles and miles.
So many places to look.
There are countless potential choke points, deep pools, and boulder fields along the White River. Without a specific focal point, an X on the map, dragging the entire river bottom is logistically and financially impossible for any local police department.
They needed the needle to gleam in the haystack just once.
Precisely. This entire journey is a remarkable synthesis of nature and human curiosity.
It really is.
It took nature to expose the truth. First, the terrifying power of the flood moving the car to that boulder field.
Right. And second, the water temporarily clearing in 2005, so the anomaly could be photographed from space.
But raw environmental data isn't enough on its own. It required intense human curiosity to connect those dots.
The digital tipster scouring the maps, the amateur sonar operators looking for clues.
And finally, the professional diver risking his life in zero visibility to pull up that rim.
It's the ultimate team effort across time, space, and technology.
So what happens next? What happens if the IMTD confirms that this Mercury Sable rim is a definitive match to Bonnie's car?
Well, the details point to a very aggressive next step. If it's a confirmed match, they are moving far beyond diving.
What do you mean?
The next phase involves heavy machinery. They'd have to bring in a bulldozer, secure the city's approval, and literally excavate the riverbed.
Oh, wow, an actual excavation.
Yeah, they would have to physically shovel away those massive boulders to unearth the vehicle buried beneath the decades of silt.
Literally moving the earth to find the truth. That gives me chills.
It really does. So as we wrap up today's analysis, I want you to remember the core insight here.
Information is absolutely everywhere.
It's beaming down from space satellites orbiting the Earth, and it's buried in the form of rusty metal under 4 feet of muddy water.
But raw data, whether it's a blue pixel on a glowing screen or a hit on a sonar display, it just isn't enough on its own.
It requires human synthesis. It requires someone to care enough to connect those seemingly disparate dots and turn raw data into actionable evidence.
So true.
And I want to leave you with a lingering thought to mull over today. We all walk around carrying supercomputers in our pockets.
Yeah, we have access to fictionless tools that can spot a submerged anomaly from space with the tap of a finger.
Yet despite all that incredible technology, it still takes a human being strapping on 80 pounds of heavy gear, sinking to the bottom of a river, and feeling their way blindly through the freezing mud to actually uncover the truth.
The digital world can point the way, but the physical world demands that we get our hands dirty.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, maybe crossing bridges or walking past your local parks, ask yourself what other massive secrets are hiding just a few feet below the surface of our everyday environments, just waiting for the water to clear. Stay curious, keep looking closely at the world around you, and we'll catch you next time.